Welcome back to our boat shop, everyone. My name's Joe Buskins. I'm second generation U.S. Coast Guard licensed professional boat builder. I also hold a 100-ton captain's license, which we use to operate our custom-built 29-footer there in the background that we built here in our family's boat shop. So today we are doing a follow-up video to our previous one where we were building a mock-up stringer and transom section using epoxy this time. We had a lot of success with our previous video on how to fiberglass over plywood, but that was with polyester resin. So this time we're using epoxy. But like I told you guys, I listen to and hear all your comments, and I had a number of questions regarding what additives we used with the West Systems, the 105 resin and the 205 hardener. And there's a variety of fillers available from West Systems, and they each kind of have a specific application. And the ones we used specifically on this one, I want to kind of touch on those, and then I'm going to touch on some of the other fillers and kind of show you where their strengths might lie and where you might use them. And we're actually also going to go ahead and we're going to mix up some of each. And we've got some batches that we were making there, and we're going to do, we went ahead and we added 1 pump of resin. We're going to be adding a pump of catalyst as we mix that. And we're actually going to make up some sample pieces so you guys can see the consistency. And then we're going to let those harden, and we're probably going to do, or may do, some kind of a strength test or just kind of show you guys what they look like once they've cured. Now, I wanted to show you folks what we worked with when we were bonding this transom piece. You can actually kind of see some of that squeeze out there. It's kind of a pale white in color. We used a combination of the 403, which is the microfibers, and this is going to give you some strength. That has got little fibers in there that I find seem to give you a lot of good strength, but when you mix them in, it doesn't really thicken the material very much. And so my other go-to here would be the 406. That's the colloidal silica. And what I did is we mixed those in equal parts. So about 50-50. And it seems, generally speaking, like if you have 1 ounce by volume of resin, you're going to need about 1 ounce by volume of the fillers, just as a general ballpark. And it's generally always better to go light with the fillers. You can always add more, but you can't take it out. You don't want to make the filler or your paste too dry. There needs to be some epoxy liquid there to help with bonding. Now, as we move up here with our sample piece, you can see we've got kind of a dark brown material there. That is what we call a fillet. It's almost spelled like it looks like fillet, but we've got a filleting blend, and that is specifically made for doing these little corner joints in our pieces and whatnot. And you'll notice it's got a brown tone to it that is meant to kind of help match to some degree the color of wood and just generally. Otherwise, the other material is going to be like an off-white in color. So I'm going to kind of space these around. So we use the colloidal silica and the microfibers together. These two are two of my favorites for just a general all-around bonding agent. You can put those on with a putty knife. That's also what we use with little West Systems trial to trial that material on. And then we used the filleting blend for the brown. So that is going to leave 3 more. Now these are less frequently used materials for me. And I actually had a comment. Someone asked about bonding some stainless steel hardware onto a polyester fiberglass hull, and the 404 is a high density, and I wish you guys could feel this. Matter of fact, you can look here on the weights of the material. This little net weight here is 15.2 ounces versus, say for example, the colloidal silica 1.7. So much lighter material there. So this is a high density. You wouldn't necessarily want to use this for any kind of a fairing or filling application. Its strength is just, it's got a lot of compression, a lot of mass. Now, when we move on over here into the fairing fillers, the 407 is a lower density material. You can see by the weight here, we've only got 4 ounces for that container. And something that is going on with this one as well is kind of like the filleting blend. You can see that it's got kind of a wood tone. And a lot of epoxy products are used when you're working with wood, plywood, it could be mahogany, there's all different types. And both of these, the 407 and the 410, which is their lightest, outside of the colloidal silica, that's only 2 ounces. And it is a very, very, very fine material. These two, if you're trying to fill little voids and imperfections, like in some marine plywood or even in some lumber, but the 410 is very fine. It sands out very smooth, feathers out really, really nice, but it is very, very lightweight. So that is just kind of the general rundown. And I will tell you guys, I'm going to try to give a lot of detail, but we're going to try to just cover one topic. So you guys hang with me, because I'm not going to put a bunch of just miscellaneous filler in there, but we are going to try to bring it down a little bit in length compared to the other videos, which is now is a good time for me to mention, if you guys are enjoying the videos, please remember to give us that thumbs up, like, share, comment, and please subscribe if you haven't already. That tells the YouTube algorithm that we're doing a good job. It allows us to make more of these kind of videos for you guys, maybe answer some of your questions. So what I'd like to do now, I am going to go ahead and start mixing some of this material up. You can see here we've got different little containers labeled, and we're going to mix up a small batch for you guys and just kind of show you the general consistency and volume. And I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm just going to start with the 403, which would be the microfibers. Now, I have not put any activator in this resin yet. You can see that is just clear. That is just clear resin. But I am going to go ahead, and what you would want to do is, if you're doing this at home and you're new to epoxy, you need to mix your hardener in with your resin before you would mix in any kind or add any kind of your fillers. Now, West Systems recommends about 2 minutes per, and I may have to do a little bit of editing in this video so that we just don't waste a bunch of time, you guys sitting here watching me mix in different additives. But what I'm going to do is we're going to add 2 heaping scoops, and I just want to show you guys at home what you're kind of looking at. Now, again, 2 of my favorites to mix would be the 403 and the 406 there. And you're just kind of going to want to take your time. I don't typically use any kind of a machine to agitate that. You can see we're already thickening up considerably. And you can use this material by itself, but it doesn't want to cling or hang to surfaces as well. It tends to kind of want to run, at least in my experience. Now you can see with 2 heaping scoops there, that is the general consistency you're going to get. Now I could go a little thicker. I'm going to add 1 more just to show you folks what you can expect there. And again, we're kind of just cutting it in nice and gently. Now, if you folks hadn't seen before, I got a cool little apparatus over here that you can make at home to help minimize the dust that some of this stuff makes. These are little tiny batches, and it's pretty minimal, and I'm stirring it very easy. But there we go. You can see she's thickened up once more, but really kind of inclined to want to run a little bit, even when you add quite a bit of material. So we're going to move right over to the 404, which is going to be the high density. And this stuff, you can tell right away that it's got more mass to it. I'm going to add 2. And that was about, I forgot to add our catalyst. Hardener. I'm going to try to work that in there again. And these are just sample pieces, but remember, it is very important to catalyze your or activate your epoxy beforehand. It can still work in these smaller batches, and especially since these are just samples, I want to show you folks the consistencies you're going to come up with. And you can see it is quite simple. This would be excellent. The 404 again is the high density, really good for bonding metallic items, bedding them in, but still fairly thin. Kind of one of the cool things about doing this though is that you can come up with the consistencies that you want. So there we go. We're going back with one more scoop. And remember folks, it is better to add it in gradually. If you add too much filler, you can't take it back out, and sometimes it will really dry out the putty. All right, there you go. So that's looking pretty nice. We could even add a little bit more to that if you wanted to. The 404. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to speed things up. I'm going to go ahead and hit everything with some hardener, and I'm going to mix up a sample. It's going to take me just 1 second, but it's going to be interesting to see what we got. You can see the different colors there. That is the 407, 406, 05 is going to be a darker, 04, 03. And we are moving down to our last one, but I want to show you guys a really cool little trick. If you missed our previous episode where we were bonding and laminating this piece together, I talked about the importance of capturing dust. And what we've got our shop vac. I'm just going to plug this thing in. And it is actually drawing a vacuum down inside this little cardboard box. Now I did screw a piece of plywood down there to kind of give it a little something to hold it in there. But what you can do is when you're mixing this, if you want to minimize airborne dust, you can actually add and stir, and it'll catch particles that might be getting away from you. For some of you folks that may be a little more concerned about airborne material. Very easy to do. Of course, you could build that out of plywood, but this is the 410, which is the lightest weight material and is the most likely to get airborne. Hopefully you can see that well. A little bit on the thinner side with approximately the same volume. I'm going to add a little more material here. Now is also a good time to tell everyone thank you so much for taking your time to tune into the channel. I know you guys have a lot of options out there, and it's very humbling that you guys are taking the time to watch what we're doing. I do read every comment you guys put out there, and I try really, really hard to respond. And I'm also amazed by the number of folks overseas and in different countries. So I want to welcome everyone to the channel. The UK, Australia, some of the island nations out there. It's been very, very cool to see y'all's response, and it just really makes me super happy. So thank you so much for tuning in. But yeah, so there we go. That is looking pretty good. Now obviously you can thicken this up or you can thin that down. And we're just using a little small scoop for consistency's sake. I believe that is one teaspoon is what we're looking at. But you can also get an assortment of spoons. Just your kitchen utensils there are going to do you a good job as far as measuring this stuff out. All right, so let me unplug. Woo! Okay, so there we go. And matter of fact, this video, like I said, is in direct response to you guys after we laminated this piece of plywood together with epoxy. Some of you folks wanted to know the wheres and whys. So I don't want to make this video too terribly long, but just remember, for me in general, the colloidal silica and the microfibers, I kind of like them just for general bonding. If you're going to want to go, if you're bonding metallic items down to a hull, maybe the high density would be the best one for you. If you're wanting to put like a nice weld down in a wood joint, the filleting blend would be the way to go. And then for just very lightweight fairing and filling, and generally something with a wood tone, the 407 and the 410 are going to be the materials for you guys and gals out there watching. So what we're actually going to do, again, we're going to try to keep this brief. I do have another follow-up video. Some of you guys asked about the particulars of our custom-made transom clamps, and we're going to make another video following this one detailing how we made those. And if you're new to the channel, we have well over 150 videos, and a lot of the more recent ones are going to be DIY type gel coat, fiberglass. We've got well over 20 videos documenting the build of our custom 29 that I drew the plans and designed that boat, built here in our family shop. And then we've also got this sample piece that a lot of you guys responded to, just our original how to fiberglass over plywood. So once again, want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. It's Captain Joe here with Island Marine Charters and Fish Bump TV here on YouTube. And as always, we will catch you guys next time out.